Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Asad Yaqub and I'm from Lahore, Pakistan, and I teach IELTS here in Lahore. I've got my institute, and along with that I teach IELTS online as well. Now in this video I'm going to tell you about the questions or the type of questions we come across in IELTS listening. It is very important to know about the type of questions we have, and then you can practice further and you can see what are your weak areas and all that stuff. So there are around 9 to 10 types of questions and we're going to discuss them one by one. Okay? Don't worry, I'm going to tell you about all these types of questions so that at least you know, because you know what happens whenever the IELTS examiner, they set your listening paper, what they do, they select the types of questions from there. You're not going to get all types, but in one exam you can get 6 to 7 types, sometimes 8 types, but usually there are 6 to 8 types, and you're going to get from these types of questions. So what we're going to do, we are going to learn the type of questions now, and then further you can practice. And let me tell you one thing, sometimes you are confused and you think, why my listening band is not increasing? I'm doing a lot of practice, I'm practicing again and again and again, but my listening band is not increasing. So you need to identify what is the type of questions where you are getting low band. Like I had a student and she was having problems with the map completion. Whenever there was a map, she was totally confused and she had the problem with that. And then I asked her for, and she was saying, sir, I'm not getting more than 25 correct answers. She said, I'm not getting more than 23 correct answers. Please help me. First I said, okay, tell me, where do you need help? So you need to identify where do you have most of the mistakes, or where do you have the frequent mistakes. Once you identify your frequent mistakes, once you identify that area, you can rectify it as well. So in order to rectify, you need to identify. That's important. Anyways, the type of questions I'm going to tell you, and I'll give you some quick tips as well. The first one is about listening. I'm telling you about listening. The first one is pick from a list. They're going to give you a list and you got to select some items from that very list. Now for example, if in the list there are 5 items, they'll play the audio and you got to select a couple of items like 2. If there are 6, then you got to select 3, and each item is equal to 1 mark out of 40. Got it? So this is pick from a list. You pick the correct answers from a list of options. Key points. Now what are the key points? Write only the correct letters A, B, C, etc. You don't need to write all the option. Okay, you just need to write the correct option A, B, C, D, E, F. Sometimes there are more, okay, like that. Answers may be worth 1 mark or more, I told you already, and answers can be written in any order. Now for example, if there are 3 questions, 7, 8, 9. Now 7, 8, 9, and they've given A, B, C, D, E, F. So you can select like B, E, F. So you can write B, E, F in any order. It doesn't matter. It's going to be accepted. Got it? So this is the question type, pick from a list. There will be a list of options and you got to listen to the audio carefully, because you know they might talk about all the options. So you got to listen carefully. As you're listening, your eyes should move through the options. You can see, okay, this is this. No, he's not talking about that. Oh, he's talking about it negatively. Oh yes, he's recommended this one. So this is how you got to listen, and this is how you got to select, and then you can write your answers and you can transfer them to the answer sheet as well. All right. Good. I'm making this video in English so that I could please many of my subscribers because they were annoyed. I started making videos in Punjabi, I started making videos in Urdu, and now I decided to make videos in English. So let's go on with English. Happy? Good. The next one is form filling in IELTS listening. Form filling is an important type of questions, and there is a form. Usually we get form filling in part 1, part 2. It might come in part 3 as well, but remember, wherever it is going to come, the level of difficulty is going to be according to that part. Now for instance, if it comes in section 1, it's going to be the easiest one. If it comes in section 2, a little more difficult. Section 3, more difficult. And if it comes in Section 4, sometimes they give you form filling in Section 4 and then say write no more than one word for your answer. So there it's going to be difficult and the type of questions is going to be different. In part 1, for instance, you just need to pick up the words like flight number, passport number, color, size of the bag, these type of things. In part 2 it's going to be different. Part 3 you got to identify the opinions, the ideas they're discussing and all that stuff. Good? Happy? So this is the second one, form filling. You complete the gaps in the form. They'll give you a form. You got to complete the gaps within the forms. Write up to 3 words and or a number, but sometimes they say 1 word. So you got to read the instructions very carefully. Check spelling. So you got to check the spelling. The next type of questions, that is actually labeling a map or plan. Now they're going to give you a map or they're going to give you a plan and you got to label it. Some information will be labeled already and some information you got to label, right? So what you need to do, you got to see what is the starting point. Okay, this is the starting point. And before they start the audio, they're going to say, you're going to listen to a conversation about a student or whatever they say. From that point onwards, you got to start imagining. Your visualization should be very, very, very strong. You can imagine, all right, they're talking about a building, they're talking about a cafeteria, they're talking about a university building, they're talking about a housing complex, they're talking about a place in the city where there are the streets and all that stuff, right? So it can be a building or it can be one part of the city and they're going to be the places there. So you got to label a map or plan. This is another type of questions. You identify places on the map or plan. Here the most important thing is preposition of location, preposition of place, like in front of, behind, along, right? So, and then directions, telling directions in English, that is also very, very important, right? So you need to know how to tell the way. Okay, go straight ahead, then take first right turn, and after that take second left. It's on your right, it's in the corner, it's this and that and all that stuff. Got it? And you got to listen to the audios carefully for that. So for this also, you got to write up to 3 words and or a number. But when you're labeling a map or plan, so you can write maximum 3 words, but sometimes they give you the information in a box as well. I'll tell you about that too. Next, sentence or summary completion. In IELTS listening, sentence completion is not that very complex. It is not that complex, that much complex. What you need to do, you got to read the questions, and when you read the questions, you got to ask yourself, okay, what sort of information do I need to look for in the audio to answer this question, right? Now, for instance, you read the question. They say dash is the date. Dash is the date means the answer is going to be the date. And if they're going to use the WH questions, you can easily get to know with when, where, why, who, how, and all that stuff. So WH questions are going to help you. And before the audio starts, you should be clear with every question that, okay, for this answer I need a mobile number. For this answer I need the process name. For this answer I need a place. For this answer I need a location and all that stuff. So far so good? Good job. So this is sentence or summary completion in listening. At times if there is a summary, you got to say what sort of words are there. Then you got to see what part of speech is going to be my answer. And remember, 3 words are very, very, very important in order to answer anything, in order to pick up the answer. 3 words are very important. There are answers within these 3 words, and you can find the answers within these 3 words as well. And these 3 words are nouns, adjectives, and verbs. But rather it should be nouns, verbs, adjectives, right? Nouns, verbs, adjectives. So you need to improve your understanding of nouns, verbs, and adjectives. If you improve your understanding of that, because most of the time this part of, or these 3 parts of speech, they are commonly used and they actually make sense. Conjunction doesn't make any sense, right? Then we've got the other ones like conjunction, interjection, pronoun and all that stuff. They don't make sense, but actually nouns, verbs and adjectives, they make sense. So you need to understand them clearly in order to find all the answers. Okay, so now we talk about short answer questions. Short answer questions is another important type in listening, and we usually get it in section 2, sometimes in section 3 and section 4 as well, but it might come in section 1 as well. So all these question types, they might come in section 1, 2, 3 and 4, but the level of difficulty is going to be different. That's what I told you already. So for short answer questions, you answer the questions. Okay. Simple, you answer the questions, and the questions might start with WH questions like when, where, why, who, how, all that stuff. Now, write up to 3 words and or a number. Answers may be worth 1 mark or more, and check spelling. Sometimes some of the students, they ask me a question, how should we transfer the answers to the answer sheet? Do we need to use the capital letter or the small letter, or we can write all capital, all small and all that stuff? Let me tell you one thing. As far as listening is concerned, all you need to do, just go through answer key of any Cambridge book and see how answers are written over there. Some answers are written in brackets. If the answer is written in bracket, it means it is an optional answer. It's an optional word. If you don't write that word, it doesn't matter, right? So sometimes 2, 3, 4 optional words, and then the words without brackets, you got to write them, and as they are written over there, capital or small, you can learn it from there. So it should not be like all capital and all small. You got to just check it there, and the spelling mistakes can ruin your IELTS listening. You found the answer, but actually your spelling was wrong, so you will not be able to get the correct band or correct mark for that very thing. The next type of questions is multiple choice. In listening, multiple choice is a nightmare for many of the students. What happens, they listen to the audio and then they are waiting for the answer, and the audio jumps to the next question. Okay, this is a very common thing, but anyways, what you need to do, you got to choose the letters A, B, C. Sometimes there are 3 options and sometimes there are 4 options, so it's going to be A, B or C, and you got to choose from there. Now my advice is, read the statement, the question statement, and after that you got the options. In options, they have added a lot of unnecessary words. If it is in section 1, it is to the point and simple. If it is in section 2, the options are long. If it is in section 3, the options are longer than the previous 2 sections, right? So all you need to do, you got to focus on 3 words or 3 parts of speech, and that is noun, verb, adjective. And if there is a number, you can focus on that as well. Otherwise, noun, verb, adjective, because noun, verb and adjective will give you the idea about that. So the options, you got to shorten the options by crossing article, definite or indefinite article, right? And then there can be prepositions. You don't need to read the prepositions. Along with that, there can be anything like prepositions, articles, are, and, some, and all that. You can see what are the extra words. Just don't read those words and underline the clue. I mean, your eyes, train your eyes in a way that you just focus on verb, noun and adjective, and you get to know what's the gist of that, and don't even read the extra words. And by extra words, when I say extra words, I mean the words like articles and prepositions and all that stuff. So in multiple choice, you got to just write the correct option. A, B, C. At times they talk about all 3 options, and they talk about one option positively and talk about other 2 options in a different way, in a twisty way. And remember, in IELTS listening, there are many traps. In multiple choice, we've got traps. Like if A, B, C, one answer is correct, 2 other answers are trap. At times you can say, oh, it's so simple, they're talking about this. But then they approve it and they disapprove it. So you got to see who is going to answer the question. Sometimes Anna writes a report about, or James' presentation. So you got to listen to James. Don't listen to Anna. Don't listen to Samantha. Don't listen to other characters. Just listen to that very character where the question is about. If the question is about Asad, so you got to listen to Asad. Asad might say that thing, or somebody else will say, Asad, you said that. So it should be about Asad. At times, the traps are about other speakers. Okay, this is another tip I just gave you. So next one is matching. You match things together. For example, places and people. You got to match that. and here you got to write up to 3 words and or a number. Sometimes what happens, you got to match. Here they're going to give you like language skills, right? It can be improving your grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and then the methods. Methods are listening, language laboratory, and all that stuff. So you got to see how to match these things with one another. And again, your understanding of the questions. I mean, if you understand the questions, half of the problem is over. Now the next half is listening to the audios and grabbing the answers from the audio. Okay, good. Let's go ahead. The next one is labeling a diagram. In listening, they might give you a diagram and you got to label that diagram. So in order to label a diagram, you got to see some information will be given already, some information will be missing, and you got to see what is the arrangement of the questions. Like for example, if the questions are like 17, 18, 19 and 20, so you got to see where is 17. Okay, this is 17. After that, this is 18. This is 19 and here it is 20. So the arrangement, because audio and questions in IELTS listening, they are in the same order. Got it? Okay, I'm just telling you, I'm giving you an overview of the listening question types. So this is labeling a diagram. Next we've got note completion. In note completion, what are the notes, by the way? Notes are incomplete sentences, right? We've got a sentence and notes are incomplete sentences. For example, if I say, electricity is generated in dash and transported, whatever, right? This is going to be a complete sentence. But if I say electricity, colon, generated in dash, transported by dash. Now these are the notes, incomplete sentences, rather like phrases. So you got to complete the notes. Write up to 3 words and or a number. Up to 3 words means sometimes they restrict, and you got to read this. Don't take it for granted, because sometimes they restrict you to write up to 1 word. They restrict you to write up to 2 words. So you got to see, it's not all the time that up to 3 words. At times it can be 1 word as well. So you got to read that carefully. So this is about note completion. The next one is flowchart completion. In flowchart, there can be certain processes, there can be certain steps, like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And within each step there are certain procedures, there are certain processes, and there are questions. And in flowchart completion, a lot of information will be given. You got to understand that, and then with the help of given information, you got to hook missing information from the audio. I mean, given information is going to be like a bait. You know, whenever we go for fishing, we need a bait. So given information is like a bait. With the help of this bait, you're going to hook missing information from the audio. You're going to do the fishing in the audio. Okay, that's right. So write up to 3 words and or a number for that as well. And the last type of questions, that is classification. They're going to classify into certain categories, like it can be category A, category B, category C. They're going to classify the data into categories, and you got to answer, you got to select which category this thing belongs to, right? For example, the categories can be, as I mentioned before, there can be 3 categories. For example, it can be New York, Toronto, London. These are the 3 cities, and there'll be some information, and then you got to see whether this thing belongs to Toronto, or it belongs to New York, or it belongs to London. That's going to be classification. So you decide which category some words belong to. There'll be the words, right? For example, they give you the places, and then they ask you, these places belong to which cities? Like, do they belong to Toronto, do they belong to London, or they belong to New York, something like that. So you got to write only the correct letters A, B, C. A, Toronto, B, New York, C, London. Okay, so it's going to be like that. So these are the type of questions. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These are 12 type of questions, and if you master these 12 type of questions, you can easily get good bands in IELTS listening. Now let me tell you, at least through this video, you are familiar with the type of questions. You know, okay, in IELTS listening, there can be this type of questions. There can be this thing, there can be that thing, and you're clear about that. Now what you need to do, maybe you can practice them one by one. You say, all right, first of all, I'll practice pick from a list, then I'll practice form filling, then I'll practice labeling a map, and you got to identify in which type of questions are you performing the best and which type of questions you're performing the worst. And this is how you can identify your weak area in listening as well. And by the way, you got to see if form filling comes in section 2, what is my score? If form filling comes in section 3, what is my score? As I told you, these questions, if they come in section 1, 2, 3, 4, the level of difficulty is going to be accordingly. All right, thank you very much. If you like this video, please hit on the like button and subscribe my channel as well. I'll try to make more videos in English. And I also offer online classes through Skype or through WhatsApp, where there is one-on-one class. In that class, I teach IELTS. I can teach you about reading, writing, listening and speaking. So if you want to go for online classes, of course I charge for that, because IELTS teaching IELTS is my profession as well. So you can contact me for that, and we can set up the timing and we can start the classes, and I'll teach you myself. I'll not give you to some other tutor. No, Asad Yaqub will teach you IELTS, and Asad Yaqub will help you get good bench scores. Asad Yaqub wishes you all the best, and I wish you a fantastic bench score in IELTS. Take care. Bye-bye.